The rocket blasts off on the high banks. Shepherd takes round 3 north of the border. We take the white flag with a veteran from the Track of Champions. As the fireworks put the lights in the sky, we put the green lights on. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Hello and welcome to another edition of Race Pro Weekly. I'm your host, Mike Warren. As shown on Race Pro Weekly a couple of weeks ago, Matt Shepherd picked up a big win at the New Egypt Speedway, taking the point lead in the Super Dirt Car Series. As the series would head north of the border to Cornwall, would he be able to do it again? Round 3 of the Dirt Car Big Block Modified Series made its way up north of the border at the Cornwall Motor Speedway, and it would be a treat for those fans as Billy Decker and Peter Britton would take the green flag side by side here in the early going of this event. Early in the race, Danny Johnson and Matt Shepherd would be on the move, as Shepherd trying to go back-to-back as they would make their way in behind as Peter Britton, well, it really proves that Batman can fly as he goes up airborne over the grassy knoll in the infield. As you see a look at it again, he would lose a lot of positions in that Troyer Racing car number 21A, but he would get it back together and work his way back into the top 10. Meanwhile, as Danny Johnson pulls off at turn number 3 to go pit side, a battle was about to ensue between two of the top guns in the Super Dirt Car Series as Matt Billings and the 9 of Matt Shepherd would go side by side for a number of laps here in this event, running for spot number 3. Billings to the inside, Shepherd to the outside, right behind a Lambois V for that number 2 spot as they are still side by side as Matt Billings trying to show the Tour regulars how to get it done up north of the border. Meanwhile, Matt Shepherd would slide underneath Boyve for the number 2 spot, and Billings would file right behind him as well, as now they would go to work on race leader Billy Decker here as we head towards the closing stages of this one. Shepherd would look to try to run him down. He'd go to the inside. He would pass Decker for the race lead. As they headed into turn number 3 and 4, Decker trying to get it back, and he loops it in turn number 3. A tough break for the Gypsum Express, car number 91 machine. Meanwhile, off the restart, you see Peter Britton working his way back into the top 10 once again, racing with Jimmy Phelps and Billy Dunn, as Britton would go to the inside of the 98H once again, but that would be all she wrote as Matt Shepherd goes back-to-back in the Super Dirt Car Series.
It feels good. I'll tell you what, this is my first ever Big Block Series win here. Can't say enough about this whole team, man. Is this thing rolling right now? It doesn't seem to matter whether we're on a quarter-mile high-bank bull ring like Cornwall or a bigger track like Canandaigua. We've been really good everywhere we went.
Matt Shepherd would grab his second in a row on the Dirt Car Series. Matt Billings would come home second. Alain Boisvert would come home in third. Kyle Dingwall fourth, and Billy Dunn fifth. Although in recent weeks there have been many drivers making their way into victory lane, the story has been the consistency of the A. Colarusso & Sons car number 74 of J.R. Hefner. Would he work his way back into another top 3 finish this week? Some pure stock action at the Lebanon Valley Speedway where Ray Hall Sr. took one of the rides of his life, flipping on the inside of turn number 2. He would be okay as we get started with our 30-lap modified feature event. It would be the Kingfish leading the fields of the green along with the Ravina Rocket, Keith Flack right to the left of him. In the early going, Keith Flack would make a bid to the inside of the Kingfish for the race lead, but it would be Mike King holding on off of turn number 4 to keep the lead in the early going. A little bit of battling up in turn number 1 and 2. Eddie Marshall will get loose. Donnie Corrales and Lauren Bro would be right behind him with nowhere to go. Then on the caution, Andy McKetty goes to try to clear something off the car, but makes contact with the inside jersey barrier as that would end his night. Off of the restart, it would be the Kingfish leading again. J.R. Hefner, your current high point man, would be on the move in that A. Colarusso & Sons car number 74 machine. And now back up towards the front of the field, the Ravina Rocket would blast off of turn number 2, and he would be your new race leader as they headed down the back straightaway. Hefner would crack the top 5 as he would go to the outside of the 115 at Kenny Tremont, and Brett Hearn, who was in a backup car and had to start dead last, was on his way up through the field as well. Caution will come out on the speedway as Guy Sheldon got into Donnie Corrales on the front stretch, as that would end Corrales' night as you see the damage to the front end of the car. Crew was not able to fix it, as now they would continue off the restart with a 3-wide battle for the number 2 spot. It would be pitcher Hefner and the 115 at Tremont fighting for the position. Brett Hearn trying to get into the top 4, getting close to the 115 of Kenny Tremont, but Tremont would block him. But this was all behind the Ravenna Rocket as Keith Flack would pick up the victory.
It was comfortable from the minute we unloaded tonight. It seemed pretty decent, and we just made a couple adjustments, tried to keep up with the track, and we got a little high in turn 4 towards the end of the race, but overall the car was pretty good.
The Ravenna Rocket picks up the victory. Rob Pitcher would come home in second, J.R. Hepner third, Kenny Tremont fourth, and the Jersey Jet Brett Hearn fifth. It's now time for this week's fan poll question. It's mid-season here, and on Race Pro Weekly, we want to know, what do you think about the show so far, and is there any way that we can improve what we're doing? Please give us all your opinions and suggestions on the Facebook and Twitter page. We thank you very much for watching the show each and every week. Taking a look at some of our answers from last week's show. As a race fan, do you prefer watching the races from the pits or from the stands? Well, 59% of you said from the grandstands, but 41% of you went with in the pits. Really, it's almost close to 50%, so really wherever you're watching the races, how can you go wrong?
The action, the battles, the excitement. Get ready for 800 horsepower of ground-shaking racing. The Super Dirt Car Series Big Block Modifieds are coming to your town. Be there to witness the mighty Big Blocks.
The Super Dirt Car Series Big Block Modifieds invades Albany Saratoga Speedway to battle for $10,000 to win at Brent Hearn's The Big Show 6. Presented by Recovery Sports Grills, Ferris Mowers, and VP Racing Fuels. Tuesday, July 8th, Albany Saratoga Speedway, the great race place.
Performance, quality, service. That's DMC Racing Products. Hundreds of name brand parts, competitive prices. That's DMC. DMC Racing Products, race to win. Going back to the Super Dirt Series race at the Cornwall Motor Speedway this Sunday night, some very good showings from a couple of the regulars in Elaine Boisvey and Matt Billings. They were both very happy with their performance running against the big guns.
Yeah, I'm happy with the finish. I didn't really think the car was very good. I was really fighting the thing out there, but I think we just kept digging and kept working. Hats off to Matt. The guys looked real good, and I think some things kind of fell in our way, and we kind of went in the right direction there, but I can't thank everybody enough.
My team gave me the better small block of the field, and my engine was super, and I really enjoyed racing tonight, and it was quite the race with the 74. I was sometimes faster than him, and he was faster than me, but on and all, very happy to finish third in front of a great crowd.
It was a breath of fresh air at the Albany Saratoga Speedway a week ago when Brett Hearn was kept out of victory lane for only the second time this season. Knowing Hearn's track record, however, you had to imagine he would be back towards the top very quickly. Kitty rides, you get the night started at the Albany Saratoga Speedway, and I'm not quite sure what that is on Mike Berto's car. But either way, it would be Brian Gleason and Neil Stratton leading the field to the green to the 35-lap modified feature. As up into turn number 1 and 2, it would be Neil Stratton taking the advantage as one of the Green Mountain boys would get out ahead in the early going. 3D of Matty D going to take a rare up front starting spot to try to get towards the front of the field. And, of course, Brett Hearn already making his way up through the field and into the top 5 in the early going of this one. The 3D of Di Lorenzo would pull right behind Brian Gleason for fourth when Neil Stratton would break leading. That would allow Mike Perotti to take the race lead, and then all of a sudden Matty D would turn the wick up on the outside, and he would be your race leader as we head towards the midway point. Meanwhile, Tremont and Hearn fighting for spots in the top 5 as you see him go by Perotti, and the number 20 of Hearn already on the move as he pulls into the number 2 spot, and it wouldn't be long before he'd be on the back bumper of Matty D. Hearn would use a pick of the 10S at Dylan Scribner as they go side by side. Matty D would drift just enough, and that would allow the 20 of Brett Hearn to take the lead once again. Hearn would continue to go through lap traffic as something would go amiss on the BBL Company's car number 14G of Brian Gleason, running big block power for the first time at Albany Saratoga this year. That would bring out the caution, and on the restart, it would be the 20 of Brett Hearn once again with the race lead. And now Mark Johnson would make his way on the outside of the 3D of Matty D for spot number 2. But again, it was Brett Hearn picking up the win at Albany Saratoga.
We had to rethink our setup a little bit. We had that one setup at the beginning of the year that worked really good for us, and we won 5 in a row with it. And then last week, the track slowed down considerably, and we were just off a little bit. So we kind of caught back up again this week with the setup, I think. I don't ever expect any of this. We work hard for it. It's what I get paid to do. But, to say that I expect it, I don't expect anything in this game.
The Jet picks up win number 6. Mark Johnson would come home second, Matty D third, Kenny Tremont fourth, and Ronnie Johnson fifth. Many drivers at the Orange County Fair Speedway this season have used an upfront starting position to pick up a number of victories. Would this week be any different down on the hard clay? Modified feature down on the hard clay would see Stevie Dodd with the race lead here in the early going of this one in that 88 machine, as he would be the guy at the front in the early going. Tim Heinley would make his way up through the field as he pushed to the inside of the 93 machine of Hollywood Craig Mitchell in the early going. And then you would see Chuck McKee on the outside as well, as he would go to the inside of Donnie Wilson after grabbing the spot off of the corner and heading down the backstretch with momentum. Cars would continue to be on the move as you would now see Heinley go to the outside of Johnny Lito for position. That'll be spot number 5 as he makes his way down the back straightaway, cracking the top 5 for the first time. Off of turn number 4, Heinley would now grab the number 4 spot away as he would continue to push towards the front of the field. As you see the 19 of McKee now going to the outside of the 33 and a third of Tommy Meyer for position. Johnny Lito trying to make his way up through the field as well as he would try to push towards the inside. As McKee would get by, as well as Chris Schultz would slow down the backstretch, which would bunch the field up. Stevie Dodd was way in front of the rest of the field with a big lead here in the early going as McKee made his way around Johnny Lito as he would get into the top 5 as well, but this was all behind Dodd, and Stevie Dodd picks up the win down in Orange County. Steve Dodd would grab the feature event victory. It would be Mike Ruggiero finishing second, Jerry Higbee third, Tim Heinley fourth, and Chuck McKee fifth. Heading into this past Saturday night at the Fonda Speedway, Bobby Varon had a sizable point advantage on both Stuart Friesen and Jeremy Wilder. With Fonda's schedule having them end a few weeks earlier than other racetracks, it was time for Stuart Friesen to try to get a move on. Vinny Sanguinetti and Danny Varon would lead the field to the green in the 30-lap modified feature at the Fonda Speedway as Varon would take the early lead in the event. You see Stuart Friesen and Mark Keselowski touching and making their way through turn number 3 and 4. As Jeff Rockefeller gets into the back of them, he would keep the momentum for the time being. Friesen and Wilder would also be on the move as Stuart Friesen with a brand new TO Pro car on that Tab Park's own machine trying to make his way up and pick up a victory. As he would go to the outside of Craig Hansen as he would look to try to crack the top 5 early and often in this one. Caution would come out for the 18 of Bodie Bellinger as he slows going down the back straightaway. That would bunch everybody up, and Stuart Friesen would waste no time trying to go to work as Bobby Varon tries to make his way up through the field as well. He sends Pep Karate up to the top side. But one of Friesen going to go to the outside of Elmo Reckner to crack the top 3. Then he'd go to work on Vinny Sanguinetti on the outside of turn number 4 and set his sights on race leader Danny Varon. Wilder would go around the 17 of Elmo Reckner as well as he would take that spot away and crack the top 3. As now the one machine going to continue to push his way up through the field as Friesen going to slide in front of Danny Varon, but now Varon will come right back on the outside lane. However, it wasn't going to be enough as Friesen going to get right in front of him and take that race lead away in that Tab Park's own machine, and that would be all she wrote as Stuart Friesen picks up another one at the Track of Champions.
I think it was flawless. It was really good. Our old car that we've been running here the last 2 years got a lot of time on it, so it was just we just felt like being a little bit behind in the points right now, and time to bring out a fresh piece, see what it had, and Danny Bedell did a little bit of work to the motor department, and everything just came together really nicely.
Stuart Friesen picks up another victory. Danny Varon would be in second, Bobby Varon third, Jeremy Wilder fourth, and Vinny Sanguinetti rounding out the top 5. It's now time for this week's Berkshire County Network Driver Spotlight with Lebanon Valley Modified competitor Colby Schroeder.
Race Pro Weekly is brought to you by Racing Electronics, your #1 source for professional race communications worldwide. Sheldon Oil Services, recycling for your future. Rainmaker Productions, co-promoters of the Lou Lazzaro Memorial Race at Fonda Speedway. And by Pilot Graphic Designs, signs, banners, decals, and so much more. Give Dan a call today at 315-539-3484.
It's not something you choose, it chooses you. It's something you're born with. It's a passion that consumes you. Being an outlaw is not for the weak. Being an outlaw is in your blood. Only an outlaw can survive a grueling 90-race schedule. 40,000 miles on the road, going from track to track. It's not about being posse or all-star. It's about being an outlaw. Only the best can call themselves outlaws. I'm Darren Pittman, World of Outlaws STP sprint car driver, and I'm an outlaw.
There's only one place in the capital region for you to get the full racing action. Stop down at the Bobco video booth at the track or call 518-399-0937. Bobco Racing Video, the next best thing to being there. Throughout the 2014 season at the Glen Ridge Motorsports Park, Bobby Varon and Craig Hansen are the only two former champions to make their way into victory lane. With Jamike Soule lurking, trying to pick up win #1 of the season, would this be the week? Jamike Soule and Corey Wilder would lead the field to the green in the 35-lap modified feature at the Ridge, as it would be Wilder with the early lead. Bobby Varon on the move as he would move to the inside of Jeff Rockefeller, and then Corey Wilder dealing with some pressure from the 711 of Jamike Soule in that new paint scheme. Soule would get by him on the outside and take the race lead as the former champion looked to try to pick up his first win of the season. Craig Hansen and Danny Varon, along with Bobby Vetter, would fight for positions up into the top 5, as Vetter would try to go to the outside of Danny Varon after he had just passed him to try to get him back. Trouble on your defending champion as Bobby Varon would have a right rear tire go down on the Bloomfield Forest entry. That number 85 machine would have to go to the hot pit as Bill Nelson and crew would change the right rear tire on the machine, get him back out there, and he would try to have to make a charge towards the end of this event. Meanwhile, Jamike Soule would get the lead off the restart. Hansen with a bid for the race lead on the inside here as we hit the closing stages. Willie Decker and Jimmy Becker on the move as well as they try to get up through the field. Danny Varon trying to work on Hansen for the number 2 spot, but it would be behind Jamike Soule as he picks up the victory. Jamike Soule would grab win #1 at Glen Ridge. Craig Hansen would come home second. Danny Varon would finish in third. Eric Mack fourth, and Bobby Varon would round out the top 5. Other winners on the night, Mark Mortensen would grab his first win in the Sportsman. Nick Stone would do it again in the Pro Stocks. Pete Vila would grab the win in the 4-cylinders, and it would be Don Harvey picking up the victory in the Empire Lightning Sprints. 20-lap Sportsman feature event would be the nightcap at the Lebanon Valley Speedway, as it would be Todd Lane and Chris Curtis leading the field to the green here in the early going. Tommy Johnson would be on the move on the inside lane along with Whitey Slavin as they tried to make their way up through the field. Michael Sabia as well on the outside as he would run right behind Cody Hunt and John Virgilio, and Tommy Johnson trying to make his way up as well. Speaking of Virgilio, caution would come out for him, and that would bunch the field up. Michael Sabia going to take advantage and take the number 2 spot away, while Slavin and Tommy Johnson are right there trying to make their way into the top 5 as well. Sabia would take the race lead, moving to the inside of the 74 of Chris Lynch at lap number 5 with a long way to go in this one. Meanwhile, Johnson and the 53 of Slavin would thread the needle a little bit here in the early going, trying to crack the top 5. As Tommy Johnson now to the inside of Todd Lane trying to make a move, and Whitey Slavin getting through not 1, not 2, but 3 cars. He would move his way up through the field once again in that 53 machine, which is why he's one of the top drivers in this division. Meanwhile, Jeff Watson will be on the move as well as he would get by the 12C of Carlotto, trying to make his way up through as Papa would crack the top 5. All this behind Michael Sabia, however, as he stayed out of harm's way and picked up his second win of the 2014 season. Michael Sabia grabs win number 2 on the 2014 season. Mike Middleton would finish in second, Matt Papa third, Jeff Watson fourth, and Timothy Davis fifth. Other winners on the night would be Chad Jezio in the small blocks. Pro Stocks would go to Rob Yetman, and your Pure Stock winners were Jesse Murphy, John Filarecki, and Al Relier. 20-lap Pro Stock feature event would see Fast Eddie Thompson and Chucky Dumbluski lead the field to the green. Up into turn number 1, however, Thompson would lose control. The 83 of Companion would spin along with collecting the 7 of Rob Yetman, and the 111 of Kevin Loomis. Yetman would have to go pit side, a tough break for him for the second straight week. Off the restart, a little bit of jangling between the 21, 41, and 14 machine down the back straightaway. And then the 87 and the 7 machine, that's Walt Brownell and Chucky Dumbluski, come together for just a second, with Dumbluski with the race lead. Robbie Speed would be on the move, trying to make his way past Dan Older, but Older would hold him off. And then Crazy Kenny Martin would make contact with the outside front stretch wall, and Dan Older would try to go to work, taking the number 3 spot away on the inside from Kenny Martin. Martin would then go to the inside of Walt Brownell and take spot number 3 away, as Dan Older would try to go to work on Chucky Dumbluski for the race lead. Older would make the pass through turn number 3 and 4 as he kept his nose onto the inside, and that Lazaro-owned machine, he'd get it outright off at turn number 2, and that would be all she wrote as he picks up his first win of 2014. Dan Older would grab his first win. Chucky Dumbluski would come home second, Kenny Martin third, Byron Westcott fourth, and Rob Yetman fifth. Other winners on the night in the Sportsman, it would be Tim Hartman Jr. once again. Limited Sportsman would go to Pete Jeske. Don Donzalite Street Stocks would go to Bill Dupree. And the 4-cylinder winners would be Steve Ryan in the dual cam and Brett Horlacher in the single cam. Taking a look at the Rookie Sportsman feature event first, Winter Mead, her first career victory. A special congratulations going out to her. As we move on to the Sportsman feature event, it would be Andrew Reeves leading the field to the green in what would turn out to be a wild one. As in the early going, a lot of cars on the move. You see Matt Janiak trying to make his way up through the field on the outside lane. Then going away, you would have Randy Sweetman spinning. Danny Kroc would get into him, and that would also collect Joe Conklin and Chris Stevens, bringing out the first of what would be many cautions in this event. As off of the restart, Frank Venezia going for the race lead would get hooked up in turn number 2, as that would bring out the caution once again. And then off of the next restart, Venezia would get in to race leader Andrew Reeves, and that would give Venezia the race lead, but that would send Reeves all the way up into turn number 1 spinning, as a few other cars would be collected as well, as that would bring out another caution. Off the restart, LJ Lombardo would be pressuring Venezia as the caution will come out, but it looks like Venezia slowed right before the yellow, and something was wrong on that number 27 machine, as that would give Lombardo the race lead. Off of the restart, the wreckage would continue as a number of cars get collected up in turn number 4, bringing out another caution in what seemed to be a marathon here in the Sportsman feature event at Orange County. Just as they thought they would get things going again, it would be RJ Smith spitting in turn number 3, which would re-rack the field one more time. When they finally got it going, Brian Crummell will be on the move as he go to the outside of Matt Janiak for position, then go to work on the 28 of Jimmy Spellman as he'd move to the inside lane and take that spot away and set his sights on race leader LJ Lombardo. Crummell would be all over the back bumper of Lombardo in the closing stages. They would have a drag race to the finish line as they came down to the checkered flag, and by a half a car length, it would be LJ Lombardo picking up the win. LJ Lombardo would grab the victory. Brian Crummell would finish in second, Matt Janiak third, Jimmy Spellman fourth, and Matt Hitchcock fifth. Other winners on the night in the Rookie Sportsman feature, it would be Winter Mead picking up the first win for a female in that division, and the street stocks would go to Mike Vigiletti. 20-lap Pro Stock feature event at the Fonda Speedway would see Jeff McPhail leading the field up into turn number 1 and 2 in the early going, but the 7 of Chucky Dumbluski shot out of a rocket heading into turn number 3 and 4 as he would take the race lead away. Nick Stone would be up towards the front early in this one as he would go to the outside of Dumbluski for the race lead here, but off of turn number 4, Dumbluski proving to be just too strong with the momentum as he would keep the lead for the time being. Don Kennedy would spin, and that would bring out the caution up in turn number 2. And off of the restart, a holy synchronized spin Batman as Walt Brownell gets into it, a few other cars as well, as both Jason and Jay Casey also collected up into the incident. Off of the restart, Pete Broderson would try to make his way up along with Jim Normoyle and Kenny Gates as Kenny Gates would rocket into the number 3 spot. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead would start to heat up on the last lap once again as Stone would make a bid to the inside. As they fight into turn number 3 and 4, something would go on Nick Stone's car, which would be a flat tire. That would give the win to Chucky Dumbluski as he would barrel down the front straightaway and pick up the victory. Chucky Dumbluski picking up the victory. Nick Stone coming home second, Kenny Gates third, Pete Broderson fourth, and Dean Charbonneau would round out the top 5. Other winners on the night would be Dave Constantino in the Sportsman. Street stocks would go to Dave Horning Sr., and Justin Phillips would pick up the win in the Empire Lightning Sprint feature event. Make sure you check out the Thomas Racing Video booth and their website at www.thomasracingvideos.com. The Choices 301 program takes a multifaceted approach aimed at educating the public about the realities and dangers of what can happen when bad decisions are made inside a motor vehicle. Don't hesitate to designate. If you are a tracker series that would like to be highlighted on Race Pro Weekly, email us at show@raceproweekly.com. Fonda Speedway throughout its history has been known for some of the top drivers to make their way through there. Of course, names just like Jack Johnson, Lou Lazzaro, Dave Lape, and even Mike Romano were past champions at the Speedway. In the case of the Romano name, AJ Romano may be one of the more underrated drivers that have ever raced at the Speedway.
AJ, 2014 season so far, how would you rank it?
Well, better than last year. I mean, we really need to run it better consistently than we have. You know, we've been good a couple nights, but there's been a lot of nights we just been kind of okay. You know, you're 8th, 7th, 8th, we're just kind of okay, but had a couple nights we were really good, but had a couple nights we were, you know, not good, so we just need to be more consistent. And, you know, a lot of it's a racetrack, to be honest. The racetrack's been real inconsistent, and it's, you know, it's just killed us. You know, we've kind of missed the setup a couple nights, come down thinking the racetrack's going to be like this. It's different, and we just don't seem to get caught up as the night goes on. So, just a lot of different factors, and bottom line is we need to get better on a, you know, week in and week out.
You've been involved in this sport for an awful long time. What are some of the big changes you've seen in these cars over the years?
Well, the cost obviously is the big thing. I remember when I started, you know, we ran just parts that were heavy. They were cheap. You could straighten things. You know, nowadays everything's lightweight. They break. They're expensive. You know, it's just tires $200 a piece now. I mean, if somebody told you 15 years ago there would be $200 a tire, you'd be like, oh my God. But just it's gone through the roof. And you know, I know everybody always says the same old thing, but you want to go back 20 years, look at the purses, and they've gone up this a little bit, and the cost it just has skyrocketed. So, you know, that's just, you know, that's why you see racetracks with 15, 16 modifieds. People just can't afford to do it. I mean, by far, that's the biggest change over the years. You know, the cars are better, they're faster, they're lighter. You know, the motors used to be $20,000 for a new one, now it's $40,000. It's tough for a lot of people to keep in the game.
Your family's certainly been involved in this sport for a long time. Did you ever expect that you guys would be involved in racing for this long? And what drives you to keep in it?
I don't think I've ever put a number on it, like, oh, I'm going to race until this. You know, it's, I guess I've never looked that far ahead of it, but, you know, I guess as far as what keeps you in the game, you know, it's what you do, I think. You just get that thing. That's what we do on Saturday nights. You know, I don't know what else to say besides it just kind of, it's all you know. That's what you grew up. My dad was racing, my older brother racing. It's kind of all you knew, and that's what you do.
Fonda Speedway certainly has its legendary status. What's it mean when you do cross that finish line first and go into Victory Square?
I'll tell you, it's a terrific place to win when you think back. I mean, look at the guys that have won championships here and victories here, and you know, obviously right off the bat you think of Jack and Louie and David and these guys, but if you really think about it, you know, Wimbledon, it's just incredible, the guys that have done well here over the years, and just something about this place. It's it's pretty exciting place to win. I mean, you know, it's all I've ever done for the most part on Saturday nights is come here, but it's still it's a great place to be in Victory Lane.
It's now time for this week's NISCA Performer of the Week, and with his win at Albany Saratoga this past Friday night, Dan Older will be our recipient. Older is now eligible for the Performer of the Year award given out at the end of the season. That's all for this week's show. For the latest news, results, and photos, check out Race Pro Weekly online, www.raceproweekly.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. So for myself, Matt Knowles, Fast Eddie, Scott Morlock, Amber Chalmers, Dave Del Sandro, and everyone that helps put Race Pro Weekly together, thank you for watching this week's episode, and we'll see you next time.